extension. Mike Brown will be the Kings head coach through the 2026-2027 seasons. He will earn $8.5 million a year, including a raise to $8.5 million this year. A big congratulations to Mike Brown. A big congratulations to the Sacramento Kings. They've done it. Your tweets, your chatty house messages, if anybody went down to Doko and maybe just yelled at Golden One, whatever you did, it worked. Mike Brown has received an extension from the Sacramento Kings. That happened over the weekend. And man, we spent the entire offseason talking about it. Where they landed was just the most obvious possible place. $8.5 million a year, right between what he was supposedly asking for and what they were supposedly asking for. Literally right smack in the middle. It's 3 years. It tears up his deal to start this year, so he is under contract through the 2026-2027 season, and the national nightmare is over.
This is how it should have all worked out in the end. I'm glad that this is how it worked. There were some really, really rough patches there where people did not believe that this thing was going to get done from everything I've heard on the backside.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the right thing. You chose a head coach 2 years ago. That head coach turned around your program and built a culture. You had 2 winning seasons in a row. He's the best head coach you've had since Rick Adelman. He has every opportunity to be a Rick Adelman type coach here in Sacramento or even surpass that.
Mm-hmm.
Right guy, right time to extend him. This is a really, really big deal for the Kings because now they got a lot of work to do and they know exactly who's running the program.
Yeah, that's the thing. And we'll get to the work to do, but the Mike Brown situation should have never gotten where it got. And I understand negotiations are going to negotiate, and that's how things are going to go. And I understand where the Kings are coming from. If you can get a really good head coach for below market value, you're going to try.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work out that way for them, but they're paying a good coach the going rate for a good coach now. And if it works out, and it's a 3-year deal, which lands in the range of, okay, this is now some runway for Mike Brown to get this thing rolling and continuing to go the right direction without tying up the Kings' financials for 5 years in the event that they don't like the way that it's going after 2 or 3 years. So it makes a lot of sense. The next step now, as far as the head coach position goes, at least for me, the next step is giving him that runway. Don't say, hey, this is a 3-year deal, and if it doesn't go the way we like, then we're going to let him go because we only have to pay him out for 2 more years. No, give him the years, give him the time. Let this thing grow. Let this thing keep going the right direction. That's now the next step. But you can't clear that hurdle until you get to it. For now, they got over the biggest hurdle, which was do not let Mike Brown go into this season as a lame duck head coach.
Yeah. The key to everything to me has always been in Sacramento is can you avoid distractions? Can you avoid chaos?
Yep.
This was the best way to avoid chaos.
Yep.
This locks in a guy and extends him out and gives him exactly what you're talking about, the runway, but also like this a basketball program needs to grow organically. And you can't keep changing paths all the time. And that's what we've seen for 16 years, but also for 10 under Vivek.
Mm-hmm.
Like there has to be stability and it has to start at the top and there has to be a clear directive to go a path. And this makes everything easier. It makes signing free agents easier, makes signing Malik Monk easier. It makes trades easier. It does make everything like simpler, and it's the right way to move forward as a franchise, whether you're a Mike Brown guy or you're not. And there are people out there that are like, oh, I don't know about Mike Brown as head coach. It's like, okay, well, he did something that no one else had done in 16 years.
Yeah. And is he going to be the coach that leads the Kings to a championship? No idea. But you weren't going to find out in 1 year. Like
no.
It wasn't, you weren't going to find that out this season. Like you have to let it become something. You have to let whatever this version of the Kings is, hit its ceiling first. And I don't think it was going to hit its ceiling in the 2024-2025 season. And if that's what you were banking on, if it's like, hey, it all rides on this year, then That's just not a good way to operate. That's a loser way to function.
Yeah, yeah. Losing franchises change coaches all the time.
Yeah.
That I mean, because again, it's about like having like the stability to create something to allow the nuances of basketball to develop.
Mhm.
And this franchise has just not been able to do that. And this is a it's a big moment. I don't know how to like put it out there any bigger than what we already have. I mean, we literally I sang in the opening, Kyle. This is one of those things where you're looking at a team that has squandered these opportunities, and
Mhm.
we can go back through it every year, and I can show you the near misses that stop this team from finding success and taking the next step. It happened time and time again where they were just off by a little bit. That's why you don't just change everything all the time. And there should be a lot of hope in Sacramento. There should be a lot of positivity about this. This is a guy with a 607 career win percentage. He's a
Mhm.
guy who's taken a team to the NBA finals. He's a guy with 4 championship rings as an assistant coach.
Mhm.
Like, this is the right guy at the right time. And again, like what you said, there may come a time where like this he can't get you over the hump or whatever. We
Mhm.
don't know.
Mhm.
But you're not there yet, and you need to see this thing play out much longer, and you need to actually support him in the right way, give him the
Mhm.
pieces. And I think the one thing I will point out that I do believe that the Kings have supported him in a different way than they have most assistants.
Mhm.
They've given him a budget to go out and get really top tier assistant coaches like Jordy Fernandez, like Jay Triano, and really like put the support pieces around him. Continue that.
Mhm.
Continue to build on this thing. Add the defensive pieces that not just Mike Brown needs, but that the players on the court need in order to find success. Like, we
Mhm.
can't keep saying, "Oh, Mike Brown wants defense," and ignore the fact that Demonis Sabonis sure would love a shot blocking, long, athletic 3-4
Sure.
that can protect his back.
Yeah.
And so those are things where now the real work begins. You did the piece that should have been simple, and it
Mhm.
wasn't simple, but that's okay.
Mhm.
We move past it. We forget about all of what's happened over the last 2
Mhm.
weeks, and now it's time to create something new and to build this program the right way.
Yeah, and the building of the program we'll discuss, but there's another aspect of this that is just the Kings for the first time in what feels like forever just doing the right thing. Like just doing the normal basketball team thing. And did it go 100% smoothly? No, but they signed the head coach who had success. Or
Hmm.
they extended the head coach who had success. Like good. I know that's it sounds so basic and simple, but dude, I've been doing media in Sacramento since 2011 and they've never done the good, simple, easy thing.
Yeah.
They've never taken the layup. And they did it this time. And it's like, great. That is like you wrote it in the Kings Beat, the kingsbeat.com. And you wrote like they chose a path. They're on this path now. They're going with it. And it's like, good. That is such a positive thing that I know just sounds like, oh, that's what a basketball team does. But it's not what the Kings have done. And that's that. I know it sounds ridiculous and it's going to sound silly to anybody outside of this market that, like, oh, they extended a head coach. So what? It's like, but dog, they just don't do that.
They haven't
And
done it in 18
and the
years.
guy that they would, like, Michael Malone is the guy who would have gotten an extension had he gotten the chance to stick around, but he didn't because that's what the Kings do. So good on them. They are moving in the right direction as a franchise and getting out of the doldrums of the previous 16, 17 years.
Yeah, and I would even say that Monty McNair, this was his coach. This was his hire, right? We talked about like he inherited Luke Walton,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to keep Luke Walton not just one season, but the beginning of his second season.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went into an exhaustive search, and he had a group of names, and Mike D'Antoni, again, Mark Jackson, um, Steve
Clifford.
Clifford. Yeah, like there was a group of coaches that he went through, and he mulled over, and like who checks all the boxes. And I think Mike Brown was the perfect guy for the franchise at the moment that they got him. But also, this should be a moment where you push past all of what's happened here with negotiations. You get on the same page, and you build this thing out,
Mm-hmm.
and you build it out as a team. The what made the early 2000 Kings so good was the partnership of Rick Adelman and Jeff Petrie. It was this symbiotic relationship where they needed each other. One guy provided the talent, the other guy coached the talent, but they did the best they could to work together and to fill the needs of each other.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's where, like, this is a moment where, like, you guys are committed to each other for another 3 years, so 5 years total.
Yep.
Like, build something. You're so close. Build something right now. Give Mike the tools. And for that matter, Mike needs to, work with Monty on what it is that he needs as a general manager to get this thing going. And it's a good moment. It's a good moment to build from.
Yeah. And it's great. Thumbs up. We had fun at the start of the show, but now, like you just said, the real thing starts now. Now comes the team building aspect of this. Now comes, okay, your coaching staff is in place. I know they got to hire some assistants and make some moves there, but you have your head coach. You trust him to get his staff together. And now what? Now comes the hard part. Now comes the roster adjustments, the tough calls on trades, the tough calls on signings. Where are you going to spend money? Can you get Malik Monk to come back? Like this is now where the real portion of the offseason starts, because for a long time, when we talked about the offseason, we're talking about boxes they need to check. It was like, oh, and the Mike Brown contract, but yeah, that's an extension. They got to get that done. And now, okay, that's out of the way now, but the larger portion of this, the Mike Brown thing became the most urgent aspect of the offseason very recently, but that was never the biggest box to check at all.
No.
That was like a formality.
Well, it should have been.
It just happened to get a little wonky.
Yeah.
But now the hard part starts, and we can be excited that they did the right thing to keep their head coach, and we can think that it was the right move. But that is baby step number 1 in getting this thing going back the right way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's interesting too. Mike has the opportunity in, I think, this next season to be the second winningest coach in Sacramento Kings history since they moved here in 1985-86.
Oh my God.
Like, there's Rick Adelman, and then there's Gary St. Jean.
Saint is number 2 on the list.
Number 2, and then number 3 is Dave Yeager, and Mike is right behind Dave Yeager after 2 years. Yeah.
That is insane. All right. Now that I know that, we're getting Saint on for sure.
Oh,
we got to talk some hoop with Saint and see how he feels about getting chased down.
I love him. He is such a good dude, and I anytime we want him, he'll come on.
Gregarious, the personification of the word gregarious.
Sitting in the green room at NBC and watching a basketball game, watching multiple games, a Warriors game on one TV, a Kings game on another TV, with Gary St. Jean and Jerry Reynolds. One of the highlights of my life. Gary St. Jean yells at the TV the entire time. He's red-faced, just like you would expect, but one of the most genuine human beings that you'll ever run into.
I just learned that there are like a million definitions for gregarious, but for people, fond of company and sociable, because I thought maybe I used that word wrong. But for animals, it means living in flocks or loosely organized communities.
Oh.
So maybe he's also gregarious in that way. I don't know. I don't know how he lives.
I don't know. Every time I see him now.
I know he loves his wine, though.
He does. Every time I see him now, he looks at me, he goes, "Get over here and give me a hug." Love him. Love him.
What a guy. Yeah, we'll get Saint on as Mike Brown chases him down for the number 2 winningest coach in Sacramento Kings.